starting off this list, and at number 10 we have Elsa de las Muneches in Mexico. And I'm probably saying it wrong, I don't speak Spanish, I'm sorry, but you've all seen these pictures before. And if you haven't, well, get ready to brace yourselves, because this is some pretty creepy stuff. Okay, see, what did I tell you? This is what nightmares are made of, and you guys have seen it before, these pictures. Well, let me tell you how this creepy doll forest started. On this island, a caretaker found a body of a girl in one of the canals. He found the doll floating in the water and he decided to hang it from one of the trees as some sort of like tribute. He continued to hang thousands of dolls until he drowned in the exact same spot where that girl died. Some people believe that the dolls are evil, while others believe that the dolls keep the island safe. So today a lot of tourists come to visit this island. I personally don't see the appeal. I definitely don't have this creepy doll island on my bucket list, but for those people who visit the island, they say that they can see the dolls move their eyes, heads, and limbs. I mean, no thanks. I guess the dolls must be possessed by evil spirits or something, but I'm not about to go there and find out. I'm not about that life.
At number 9 we have Eeeping Park, Cincinnati, Ohio. If you're in Cincinnati, Ohio, chances are you're already having a pretty bad day. You probably just watched the Cincinnati Bengals lose and now you're on your way to watch the Reds do the same. But if you wanted to make your time there a little worse, you might want to take a stroll through Eeeping Park. This place is apparently haunted by the ghost of Imogen Remus. She was killed in the park by her husband. It was 1927 and she was on her way to the law office to get some divorce papers so she could leave her husband. Well, he didn't like this very much, so he chased her down in his car and shot her dead right in the park. It is said that now the park is haunted by the lady in the black dress. At number 8 we have Elfin Forest, San Diego, USA. A common theme for this list is a lot of gruesome things can happen in a forest. I thought they were all supposed to be cherry picking and picnic, but there's also lynchings and massacres. Who knew? Elfin Forest has a ton of supernatural tales about it. It's said to be the home of mythical creatures. If you're there the right time of year, you can see them frolicking through the forest. Now, if magic monsters isn't enough to get you hyped up, you should go check out this place for something a little more rooted in reality. In the 1800s, the forest was occupied by several different groups of gypsies. Now, gypsies get a very mixed reaction, and apparently the townfolk living close to this forest really didn't like them. They hated them so much that they went in with some pitchforks and torches to drive them all out. Many of the gypsies made it away, but the few that weren't quick enough were killed. The survivors then cursed the land, and if there's anything I don't want to do, it's mess with gypsy curses. Now the forest is said to be super haunted. There's apparently a ghost of a headless horseman riding a black stallion, and some ghostly ladies in red dresses floating all around. At number 7 we have Jack London State Historic Park, Glen Ellen, USA. Jack London is a famous author, so famous that he actually got a whole state park named after him. I mean, if I lived my whole life and did awesome things, so awesome that people wanted to name something after me, I would probably want a burrito chain. But I guess a park is fine too, I just think it's kinda lame. But this park was named after Jack because his family used to live out there on their massive ranch. He was even building his dream home out on this park until a huge fire burned it down. What a bummer. He didn't even get to see it finished before he died. Now the wreckage just sits on the park, and apparently him and his wife were both buried in the park, and now they haunt the burned down house. Like, dude, get over it, the house is gone, you're dead, it's time to move on. At number 6 we have Highgate Cemetery, London, England. This cemetery was established in the middle of a forest back in the 1800s. The problem with building a cemetery in the middle of a forest is it takes a lot of upkeep, and apparently this was way too much work because it wasn't long before the place was pretty much abandoned and the forest started to take over. It remains a landmark, but a forgotten one. But when it became a hot spot to shoot horror movies, there was a surge of new visitors. This breath of fresh air also brought some new rumors about the park being plagued by supernatural things, mainly vampires. Rumors started to swirl around that some of the graves had vampires in them and that people had spotted a floating pale figure dressed in all black. This got vampire hunters from all over the world all hot and bothered, so they started to travel there to the park, dig up the graves, and stab the dead bodies in the hearts with wooden stakes, just in case, which I totally support. The people are dead, they don't care if you dig them up, and if they are vampires, then I want to make sure they're dead. And if vampire hunting does nothing for you, another reason to visit this park is there's famous people buried there. Kinda cool. At number 5 we have Hunting Island, South Carolina, USA. The Hunting Island State Park is not only home to a beautiful lush forest, but also a mysterious lighthouse. Nothing like a good old-fashioned lighthouse ghost. The lighthouse is at the edge of the forest and has a few different specters that have been seen roaming around it. There's one of an old grumpy lighthouse keeper who has never forgiven himself for a young boy drowning on the premises, and the other is of his daughter that killed herself inside the lighthouse. This guy can't catch a break, I'm sorry dude. At number 4 we have the Black Forest, Germany. This place seems to be ripped right out of a fairy tale. We could go on for hours and hours about the different legends involving this forest. It's said to be the home of different species of dwarves, elves, and a whole bunch of other things that coexist. If you're interested in getting some werewolf powers, there's also said to be werewolves in this place. And there's a king who will steal your girlfriend and take her to his underwater world. I don't know if he teaches you how to breathe underwater before he kidnaps you, but there's nothing about that in the brochure. This is the kind of place that I would like to avoid, because I don't want to be the guy who walks into a forest and then some little fairy is like, "You're the chosen one," and then I gotta spend the next 6 months saving some magical beings from a dark lord. Like, I have plans this weekend, I don't have time for this. At number 3 we have the China State Camp Park, San Rafael, USA. It's beautiful, it's right next to the beach, it's the kind of place you go on one knee and propose to the person you want to be with for the rest of your life. But it's also the spot of one of the darkest murders I've ever heard about. A young girl and her family and her boyfriend were all out for a nice family barbecue in the park. Probably had one of those little portable grills, a bunch of burgers, maybe they were gonna roast some marshmallows at the end of the night. Well, for whatever reason, this wonderful evening inspired this young girl and her boyfriend to kill the girl's parents. And instead of roasting marshmallows at the end of the night, they ended up burning her dead parents' body parts on a campfire to try and get rid of the evidence. Aokigahara Forest, Japan. I'm sure a lot of you at home remember when Logan Paul did his little trip over to this forest for some views. The Aokigahara Forest is at the base of Mount Fuji and is better known for its name, the Suicide Forest. It has been the most popular spot in the world for people to kill themselves. People who enter this forest for any other reason, say to go for a hike, might run into the body of someone who went in there to end their own. Police visit this forest often to remove the bodies, but because of the density of the forest and the twisting paths, it can be very hard to locate people's dead bodies. It's also very easy to get lost in there. If all that wasn't enough for you to want to jump out of your skin, then I'll let you know this is also a hot spot for ghosts and demons. Many Japanese legends tell of demons that live in the forest. They say demons corrupt the minds of people, and that's why so many people travel there to kill themselves in the forest. At number 1 we have Yosemite National Park, California, USA. For our number 1 spot we have one of the most beautiful places in all of America. For real, you cannot come here without gaining a massive appreciation for nature and exploring the outdoors. It's actually breathtaking. Even though this place should be on everyone's travel list, I will let you know there are a few ghosties hiding there. Two of the most famous ghosts that make their home there are Chief Tenaya. He was the former chief of the Awatichi Nation. People are unsure why his spirit is yet to move on to the other side. Some people think he's protecting the park, and other people think he might be a guide for people who get lost in the gorgeous landscape. But for sure the biggest celebrity you could run into from the spectral realm would be John F. Kennedy. It's said that his ghost has been seen walking around the Alhani Hotel located in the park. If any of you viewers are planning a trip there and you see him, please just walk up to him for me and say, "Hey, I think you got something on your head."
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot we have pink dolphins. There's a few weird things going on with these guys, but let's start with the most obvious, which is of course their color. These residents of the Amazon River are the largest of all river dolphins, and adults end up acquiring a strange pink coloring, which is more prominent in the males. Scientists aren't exactly sure why these guys are pink or why their color comes later in life, as they are born with a more gray color that is usually expected of dolphins. There are of course theories as to how they get their colors, however, with the most common being the thought that the color is brought on by scar tissue that results from either rough games or fighting with other pink dolphins or predators. I said at the beginning of this point that they are strange for a few reasons, and while their super unique and gorgeous color is one, the other has less to do with them and more about a very interesting legend legend that surrounds them. Legend goes that these dolphins actually transform into very handsome men in the evenings, and during this time they hypnotize and seduce young women before turning back to dolphins again near sunrise. The origins of this myth are rooted in some pretty dark cover-ups, so I think it's best if we just lay that one to rest and let these dolphins not take the blame for humans' awful behavior.
Up next, number 9, we have the Pine Barrens. The forest spans over 1 million acres and it is located in New Jersey. According to the local legend, the Jersey Devil is known to roam around this forest. He was born in 1735, except he didn't look like a child. He was born with leather wings, a ghost head, and hooves. He flew up a chimney and into the forest, and he has been killing livestock and creeping out the residents ever since. Locals living near the forest can hear high-pitched screams, and they're too scared to venture into these woods because they don't want to come face to face with this demon. Coming into number 8, we have the Whitewood Forest in England. Hands reaching out and touching you, and a horse-drawn cart carrying a couple of their crying children. Well, these are just a few things that you'll see if you decide for some reason to go inside of these woods. But one of the scariest legends that originated in this forest is about Amy Robsart. She mysteriously died of a broken neck, but she confronted her husband as a ghost and told him that he will join her in 10 days. And sure enough, he died after becoming ill with an unknown reason, but it also said that anyone who walks into this forest and sees Amy Robsart will die shortly after. So yeah, my recommendation would be to stay far, far away from these woods. The Freeton Fall River State Forest is next up at number 7. Now this is pretty unlucky, number 7. This forest is known as a paranormal breeding ground. It is believed to be the shire of a bunch of satanic murders that occurred in the 70s and the 80s. There have been creepy UFO sightings here, poltergeist activity, and fireballs are emerging just out of nowhere. The forest is also said to be the home to a race of humanoid creatures known as pickwedges. These creatures look like troll beats that are known to cause trouble. They will intentionally startle people, throw rock or sand in their faces, push or shove them, kidnap them, hurl them off a cliff, wrestle them, or even attack them with knives or spears. These creatures have been blamed for a lot of deaths that have occurred here, and people still report seeing them in this forest. The Devil's Tramping Ground curses us in at number 6. Located in North Carolina, these woods are known as one of the most haunted places in this state. The Devil's Tramping Ground is located deep within a forest, but it is a perfectly round 40-foot circle, and the circle doesn't have one single flower, weed, or blade of grass. That's because anything that gets planted here will either wither and die. If that doesn't seem strange to you, if you put an object in the circle before sunset, it will violently be thrown out of the circle before sunrise. When dogs get too close to the circle, they will whimper and bark, and they would refuse to go in. People have tried to spend the night in the circle, but no one has been able to do it, or they have gone insane. It is believed that this is where the devil comes out at night to do his pacing and thinking. Because of this area has a really bad reputation. Well, yeah, no duh. People have seen red eyes glowing there at night, and they can feel like something bad is about to happen. Well, here's a clip of two guys who thought it would be, a great idea to visit the Devil's Tramping Ground. What they found will shock you.
Or had to get out here in a hurry.
The Burial Ground Forest takes us into number 5. Let's travel over to England and into the Eeeping Forest. This forest is so large that it's become a very popular hideout for criminals on the run, and it's also a very notorious forest for dead bodies. This 6,000 acre forest has been the hideout for a lot of dangerous criminals and murders. So yeah, this definitely isn't a nice place for kids to play in, and on top of that, there are hundreds of dead bodies buried in these woods from gruesome murders. Oh, and a lot of children were targeted here by Ronald Jepson, who was a very sick pedophile and murderer. It is also said that cars parked on Hangman's Hill are said to roll uphill when they're parked in neutral. I don't know why you would ever park your car on Hangman's Hill. I mean, the name alone says it all. The Screaming Woods come onto this list at number 4. Well, this sounds like the absolute worst place to host a camping trip. I mean, am I right? The actual name of this place is Durwing Woods, and it is located located in Somerton, England. Hikers have said they can hear blood-curdling screams coming from the forest at night, and they can also hear footsteps and whispers on foggy days. Apparently a man was captured and killed in these woods by local villagers in the 18th century, and it is believed that his ghost still holds a grudge and will do anything in his power to harm the living, while others believe that the hauntings are caused by 20 ghosts who were found dead in the forest from a massacre that occurred in 1948. Autopsies were done on the bodies, but they couldn't determine a cause of death. The Dow Hill Forest comes crashing on this list like just like that at number 3. And yeah, I'm doing my own sound effects for this one because why not? Well, this forest has its own fair share of gory murders, and lots of people have seen a headless boy wandering around in the trees along the path. This creepy path is known as Death Road, and if you ever find yourself walking around this path, you will feel like you're being constantly watched by something evil. Some people have even seen the red eyes staring at them. There's even a ghost of a woman dressed in gray, and you aren't supposed to look or talk to her. And there is something in the air that will make you feel like you're losing your mind. And for some, the air makes them kill themselves. And now at number 2, we have the Suicide Forest in Japan. Obviously, no haunted forest list could be complete without this infamous forest. The Suicide Forest can be found at the base of Mount Fuji, and it's arguably one of the most scary places in the entire world. There are rumors that the iron in these woods interfere with compasses, which causes hikers to go in the wrong direction, and they will go deeper and deeper into the woods. These hikers will become so lost that they can't find their way out. But what makes things even worse is that the forest has been the site of more than 500 reported suicides since the 1950s. People claim that they can hear their spirits scream throughout the night, and you can hear necks breaking. And yes, this is the infamous forest that, Logan Paul did his shenanigans in. You guys know the whole thing, I'm not gonna get into it. Coming in at number 1, we have the most haunted forest in the world, the Hoia Baciu Woods, located in Romania. It's almost like this guy named the forest after he sneezed. Baciu. Well, if you value your life, you will never ever step foot in these forests, and I'll tell you why. It covers 250 hectares of land, and it is referred to as the Bermuda Triangle of the country. It has a reputation for intense paranormal activity and unexplained things that have happened here. Brave people who have entered these woods have seen ghosts, faces appearing in photos, unexplained figures, and UFO sightings. If you go into this forest, you will feel intense anxiety and feel like you're being watched. People who live near the forest are afraid to go in because they believe the people who visit will never return home. Some of the locals who were crazy enough to go inside complained of having rashes, nausea, vomiting, migraines, burns, scratches, anxieties, and other weird feelings. But get this, some people even believe that the forest is a gateway to another dimension. People have been known to disappear in these woods, and strange lights can also be seen. A 5-year-old girl wandered into the woods and got lost, but apparently she came out of the woods 5 years later, wearing the same clothes, but she actually had no memory of what happened within those 5 years. I mean, I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it. When I read that, I couldn't believe it.
At number 10, we have Griffis Park, Los Angeles, USA. This park is a pretty famous tourist destination. People from all over this world will come to this place to see the spot where Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone did some dances from La La Land. Personally, I never saw the movie, so I don't really care. But beyond this forest being blessed by the presence of Hollywood A-listers, it has also been cursed. The park was previously owned by Don Antonio Felice. He was a wealthy man and he had a niece per Tanya. Things were going pretty good for them. They're all rich and stuff. They're living in a massive park. Then the family hit some hard times. Don got smallpox and died in 1863. This would be an even worse outcome for his niece. She thought she was gonna get a big payday when her uncle passed, but turns out he left her nothing in his will, so she put a curse on the whole park. Since then, there have been several murders, fires, and even satanic rituals inside this park.
In our number 9 spot today, we have the Boiling River. It is pretty common knowledge that the Amazon is home to the longest river in the world, but there is another river found in the Amazon rainforest that is equally as astonishing, but for a very different reason. The Boiling River got its name for being exactly that, as it is a river that is near a boiling point at all times. The water temperature reaches up to 93 degrees Celsius, which is just shy of the boiling point, and the steam coming off of the surface of the water is an obvious warning to all all living creatures that it is absolutely unswimmable. You could, however, poach an egg in this river, although that's probably not the recommended cooking method. There is still debate around the source of heat for this river, but as of right now it is believed to be entirely natural and geothermal. Despite the river not being near any active volcanoes or geothermal vents, it is quite an anomaly. There are of course more local legends that state the river is a place of power and that the Mother of Waters is responsible for the creation of this incredible and strange river. Either way, just don't swim in the river and everything will be fine. In our number 8 spot today we have Victoria amazonica. This water lily is one of many abnormally large things that can be found in the Amazon rainforest, and it is found in the shallow waters of the Amazon River basin. These lilies are not only the world's largest water lily, but they can also hold the weight of an adult human. They will begin to flower as the sun sets and take up to 48 hours to completely open, and they are absolutely beautiful. These flowers are not only super strong and super beautiful, but as they open they also release a wonderful scent, which leaves me wondering if there's anything they can't do. One thing to be careful of though, if you encounter one and decide to step on it, it is that their leaves have thorns to protect them from predators, so watch out for those. Actually, on a second thought, just because they can hold a human doesn't mean we have to step on them at all. Let's just admire their beauty and strength from afar and let them just be lilies like they're meant to be. In our number 7 spot today we have the Patu. I don't know if that's how you say that, but that's what we're going with. Okay, these guys definitely aren't the strangest thing on today's list, but they certainly look extremely strange. I'm sure a lot of us have seen a picture of them at some point because of their wild appearance that reminds you of your one friend that just can't quite keep it together. But despite them having a bit of a silly look on their faces, these birds actually possess some pretty cool skills. They are masters at disguising themselves and have the ability to remain motionless for days on end. They're nocturnal creatures, so it isn't often that we get to spot them flying around, and during the daytime they're so good at camouflaging themselves that you'll likely only be seeing them if they want to be seen. This is just one of those scenarios where we are reminded to not judge a book by its cover, because despite their goofy appearance, they're actually pretty serious birds with some serious talent. In our number 6 spot today we have the bullet ant. Before I dive into this one guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. I'm sure the bullet ant is one creature on this list that many of us know about, but that certainly doesn't mean it isn't very strange. These creatures are obviously ants, but with one feature that makes them unlike others of their kind. They are the world's largest ant, which is cool, but their name is where things get a little crazy. Some people believe they are named for their size, as they are roughly the size of a bullet, but it is much more widely speculated that they are named because of the fact that their sting feels like getting shot by a bullet. I have not seen a bullet ant in real life, or been bit by one, and also haven't been shot, so I cannot confirm any of these things, but that's just what the internet tells me. The pain is said to last for 24 hours and causes waves of burning, throbbing, and all-consuming pain, which sounds like something I absolutely do not want to experience. Maybe these guys are where the term small but mighty comes from, considering their bite is considered to be one of the most painful things a person can experience. I think I might try my best to stay away from them, even though it's unlikely I'll die from a bullet ant. I'm just not taking any risks, and I'd rather not go through that kind of pain if I can avoid it. In our number 5 spot today we have Rafflesia. Okay, remember how I said that there's a bunch of abnormally large things that can be found in the Amazon rainforest? Well, here's another one just to prove I wasn't lying. This flower is the world's largest flower, but it also has no roots, no stems, and no leaves, and instead lives as a holoparasite on the vines of a tetrastigma, which is a genus of plants in the grape family. This flower is very similar to fungi, and the only identifiable feature that is distinctly plant-like are the huge flowers, but even those are unusual of course due to their unbelievable size, as well as their reddish-brown color. One more strange part about these huge flowers is their smell, which apparently is comparable to rotting flesh. These flowers are also apparently on the verge of extinction, so between that and the smell, I feel like this might just be a flower to stay far, far away from. In our number 4 spot today we have the decoy building spider. Okay, I do not like spiders, so I really didn't want to include any on this list, but I absolutely had to once I found out about this small but mighty creature. These decoy building spiders are exceptionally small but super smart. These spiders only measure to be about 5 millimeters in length, but you might see a much larger spider hanging out in a web they created. This might sound alarming, but this spider is actually a decoy that the small spider built out of various materials such as food scraps, debris, energy, and even their own old shed skin. It might not be the most beautiful work of art, but that is an unbelievable defense mechanism for such a tiny creature. These spiders were actually only discovered pretty recently, so not too much is known about them, as there still needs to be a ton of research done. It is, however, believed that this is a feature that has evolved in this particular spider, so it is possible that we only recently discovered it because it might be a newer feature. But the Amazon rainforest does hold many living creatures that we have yet to identify, so who really knows? All in all, this spider is very unique and strange, and basically the Michelangelo of spiders. In our number 3 spot today we have the corpse flower. Okay, we're back with another strangely large thing, and this time it is another flower that is called the corpse flower, which is a terrible nickname for a flower. This flower is deep green on the outside and a beautiful burgundy color on the inside, and it also features the world's largest unbranched inflorescence in the world. Both male and female flowers grow inside of the same inflorescence, but the females bloom first, with the males following in a day or two, which usually prevents the flowers from self-pollinating. These plants usually require 7 to 10 years before the initial blooming period, and after that, the blooming tends to be fairly sporadic. Some will take another 7 to 10 years, and some are able to bloom every other year. As the flower blooms, it is around human body temperature, which allows for its scent to be quite prominent, which you'd think would be nice, but apparently this is another flower that smells like a rotting corpse, which is where it gets its awful nickname from. These odors, however, are super helpful to the plant, as it allows it to attract pollinators, which are usually insects that like to feast on rotting flesh. So I guess while the scent is unbelievably unpleasant to humans, at least there are creatures that are more helpful to this flower that actually enjoy it, which I guess is just probably for the best. In our number 2 spot today we have this plastic eating fungi. This is a fungi that could help us solve one of the world's most pressing issues, which is the overpopulation of plastic. We have way too much plastic on this earth and virtually no way to get rid of it, but this discovery could help us fix that. This is the very first fungus ever found that can support itself on polyurethane in anaerobic conditions, which means that it not only can consume plastic, but it also does not require oxygen for growth. In fact, oxygen may even affect it negatively, which could make it a perfect species to help remove plastic from our oceans and other places with little to no oxygen. This is a fairly new discovery, which means it of course is still in the research phase. It will require more time before we are exactly sure how to best utilize its incredible properties, but this may be the solution to one of humanity's biggest questions and problems. And of course, this isn't a ticket to just start throwing plastic in the oceans, and should serve as a reminder to us all that our earth is full of unbelievable things, and if we stopped ruining it for a second, we might be able to realize its full potential and see just how lucky we all are to have such a beautiful planet. In our number 1 spot today we have silkhenge. Okay, we already talked about one spider that was actually pretty cool, and begrudgingly I have to talk about another one because it also is equally as unbelievable, but here's the strangest part about it. We don't even actually know what the spider is. There is some kind of spider that is making what is referred to as silkhenge. This piece of spider art was first discovered in 2013 by Troy Alexander, who posted a photo of it on the internet asking for help in identifying it, but no one could help because it's a totally unknown phenomena. These structures are created by spiders and help with reproduction because they're actually protecting eggs. There's one main spire that is constructed of spider silk, and that is where the eggs are contained, and then surrounding that spire is a sort of circular fence that is also made of spider silk. The name comes from its similar appearance to Stonehenge, and no one knows what kind of spider is making these insane structures, or if it's a multitude of different kinds of spiders. Either way, it certainly is one of the most astonishing things being created by a tiny, mysterious creature. Hopefully one day we find out the creators of these sculptures so we can give them the proper credit they deserve.